Thank you for tuning in to Ungentrified with Kent Johnson. Ungentrified takes an unfiltered view on pop culture, music, television and film, politics, current events, and topics central to the worldwide Black community. Ungentrified is a safe audio space for celebrating Black culture in its purest form. Thank you for joining another very, very special episode of Ungentrified. And it's going to be the last of the very special episodes for the time being. I know. Dry your eyes. But, of course, it's me, your boy Kent, and I have one of my favorite people here with me. B, say what's up.
Hey, everybody.
And we are here to discuss the final episode of season 4 of Insecure. And the final episode is Lowkey Lost. And all right, before we get started, I do want to say this, and let me know if you agree with me or not, B. So, have you ever had a situation where you were given more time to complete an assignment and you still rushed and did it at the last minute? Has that ever happened to you?
I think that's pretty much my life every day, even for work.
Now that we've seen the season in its entirety and we know that this was a season where they had 2 more episodes to play with, I feel like this last episode was a lot crammed at the last minute. It was rushing to get the homework done at the last minute.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I kind of feel like, I don't know, that not even like the last, like literally the last minute, like the bombs were dropped in the last 10 minutes type of thing.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, sorry. I just wanted to get that out the way, and I've been holding on to that since the episode aired. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into Lowkey Lost. So we open up the episode finding out that Lawrence is going to be a trolley nigga. He got the job in San Francisco. So he lets Issa know. And the job is a great opportunity for him. He's getting his own team. They giving him reload money. Like, he's definitely hitting.
He's moving on up in the world.
Things are going great. And while it would look to be a situation where the things that they've been progressing towards would hit a standstill, that's not a question here. Issa's like, well, we can do a long-term relationship, not long-term, long-distance relationship.
Long distance.
Right? I mean, we would hope it would be long-term too. They can do both of the longs. But yeah, long-distance relationship. The flights are only 45 minutes. It's not a big thing. We can make this work. I want to make it work. I want you. Like, that's her sentiment. And Lawrence is down with that. Like, they're going to make it work. So they're definitely back on the relationship train. And things seem to be going good for them. Like, all is new in the world. The new Issa and the new Lawrence are, in fact, compatible for one another. So we lead the episode with some good news. And later on, Issa is fully like claiming Lawrence. She sees Nathan at the barbershop. He's showing her the extra space he got in the back for her event. And she's claiming Lawrence, like, my man's moving to San Francisco and we working it out.
Yeah.
So definitely.
I was happy for them in that moment too, because I kind of felt like, oh no, is something about to happen, because maybe I'm taking on the Lawrence role of, is a slip up about to happen? Right. And even if it was like one of those he kissed her type of thing, I just kind of felt like it was too in close quarters type of thing. But it turned out that it was like she brought it straight to the, like, are we gonna be cool? Can we be friends? Knowing that I'm with him or whatever, and poor Nathan said
Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, you're right. Nathan is of the mindset of like, hey, I said I wanted you in my life, and I still do. Like he was like, I apologize for how I responded to the news that you gave me. I think he still believes those things that he said, but yeah, he's like, I still want us to be good friends. So
Yeah.
that's how they kind of end their story, Nathan and Issa, for this season. Um, we we head over to Molly, and Molly and Andrew are still together, to my surprise.
To everyone's surprise.
But they're at a job function for her, and her coworkers want to keep the party going, and Andrew's kind of like, nah, I don't really want to go. And Molly is pressing him on it. Of course, in typical Molly fashion, not seeing that this would be an opportunity for her to return the many favors that Andrew has.
The many forgivenesses.
Right. Yeah, that he's extended her way when she didn't want to do something, or when she made it known that she didn't want to do something. And she breezes right past that and is trying to find every reason to get him to go, other than acknowledging that he didn't want to go.
Right. And he was like super gracious about it. He was like, okay, fine.
Right. Yeah.
Like he could have been like, I said no.
Right. Leave me alone, which is what he should have said. But again, we get another glimpse of him just being kind of fed up with the whole situation. So when they get to Molly's spot, he lets it out. Like, we always do things on your schedule. It's always about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always bending over backwards to accommodate you. And Molly came with a line where I wanted to throw the remote at the TV when she retorted back and was like, when have you ever bent over backwards for me? Did you not see what we saw? Did you not experience this season along with us? All Andrew has done is try to
and she
make you
even
good.
saw that. She said that many times that he gave her another chance, after the brother thing. She even brought up the brother in this argument as well. But so she kind of like discredited herself just by bringing up a couple of things that he kind of breezed past. But he was like, it's not even, to my surprise, he was like, it's not even about the brother. It's everything.
Right. It's all other things. I told you
Yes.
that Nan from the last episode was the break-in point. It was the Nan, it was the brother, it was the Issa situation. And he tells her, he's like, you never let shit go. You don't know how to let shit go. Like, how did this work in your world? Were you just never going to talk to my brother again? Like, if you saw a future with me, how could you see that without my family associated with that? So,
right.
And he asked her.
Same stuff that we have been saying.
All the things. So Andrew has been having the same thoughts that we've been having throughout this entire season. Like, she crazy. And he can't do it no more. And he asked her, like, what are you fighting for? Like, what's your energy? And then even with that, when he asked her, like, or when he tells her that she doesn't know how to let shit go, she immediately battles back with that. And it's like, all I do is let stuff go.
When?
Ain't never seen that.
And she didn't she gave no examples of that.
Right.
Like, remember that time? No. Nothing.
She really has gotten this understanding with her of herself that she's perfect and everybody else is just crazy and thinking that she needs to do some kind of work on herself. Like, she can barely take criticism and words of advice from someone she's paying to tell her that information. So,
right?
Of course, she's not going to take it from everybody else around her, especially when she feels like she's doing a service to them and is a blessing in their lives. So, when he told her, like, I'm done, it's been like this for a while, it's a wrap, she went into and completely changed up and was like, well, what do I need to do? I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll make the taco. Like,
I mean, oh my God, I was gonna say that
yeah,
too.
she went and really did all of the things that she should have been doing to Issa,
Hmm.
like trying to make it work, but
Yep.
um, she, really landed on the line like, hey, whatever it is I need to do, I'll do it. And he's like,
Hmm.
you already did enough. Ain't no coming back from that. So,
But yeah, even that line, what are you fighting for? Like to me, first of all, that just sounds like I'm legit done. I'm There's nothing here for me. That it wasn't like what are we fighting for, which is what you sometimes hear on these like couple breakups or whatever. Like what are we doing this for? What are we trying to accomplish or whatever? But he was like, what are you fighting for?
mhm.
And at that point, it sounded like he had already assessed the situation and knew that this is not long term for him. He had a good time, and they tried to make it work, but really it's fine. It's just one of those things that didn't work out. And this for Molly is a huge thing. Like this is the longest relationship. I think she even said
Yeah.
that. This is the longest relationship she's ever been in. This is the most she's grown in her own mind, which is like anytime that they fought, she took a beat, came back and apologized or tried to make amends or whatever. And so she felt like this was like her legit grown up relationship, like they were going to go the whole way. And but then when she sat there, the look on her face after he said that, I don't know. It kind of reminded me of like an old movie. Like it was just like the saddest. It was like a puppy dog look, like the saddest look I've ever seen. While she's trying to go through her mind to come up with something to answer that question,
hmm
I think. And there, at the end of the day, she couldn't think of anything.
Right.
I don't know if she couldn't think of anything or couldn't articulate it, or it just wasn't. It was just done to her in that moment. I don't know what she was thinking, but that look.
Yeah, and it's sad that if this is your longest relationship, and the only reason why it lasted this long is because somebody in the relationship was willing to accommodate you at all times without requesting that accommodation in return. And then the one time that they did, you couldn't make that happen. Like this is for a Looking for Latoya episode, and we didn't even get to see the the final episode because she wanted him to wait for her, just like he does
Hmm.
all of the time. Like, we don't know what happened to Latoya because of you, Molly, and now you done lost your man because you don't know how to accommodate in this world. But yeah, she really got some work to do. And then when I heard the "What are you fighting for" line, I took it as you're fighting everybody, but you're not getting any kind of like result out of it. You're not getting any kind of resolution. You're still mad. Like, you fighting all these people, you angry with all these people, and you still carrying around all this anger instead of actually fixing it. So
Yeah,
that
I
yeah,
agree.
that was what I took from that. And it's like you see they lingered on her for a while. Like it got uncomfortable after a while.
It did.
Because like you said, she couldn't find the answer, and it should have been right there. Like, it should have been the first thing in her file decks, her Rolodex. What's a file dex? It should have been right there for her to recall and blurt out in that instance, and it definitely wasn't. So at the end of the season, I think it's the end of their season. I don't think
Yeah, I don't think he's coming
yeah,
back.
or at least not in a relationship role. He might pop up at Andrew's house. I mean, he might pop up at Nathan's house or the barbershop. But yeah, we definitely not going to see him around. Or if we do, I could see it maybe, but I doubt it. As Issa's still making that connection a viable one for her, because it does help her if she's trying to stay in the event space. So it's like,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
just because you don't know how to act in a relationship don't mean I don't know how to act in a friendship or a business relationship. So I don't know. That's the only way I could still see him being around. But yeah, it definitely sounded like it was done so. So the next thing we transition to is, and this took up a bulk of the episode, was
Was
yeah, we
Tiffany.
were looking for Tiffany. We went from looking for Latoya to looking for Tiffany. I think everybody,
I think I texted that to you too. I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, this is a real life looking for Latoya."
right. Yeah, I think everybody had figured it out to this point that Tiffany was suffering with some level of postpartum depression, and it came to a full head in this episode. She went out for a break and just didn't come back, and they hadn't heard from her. Specifically, Derek hadn't heard from her in over a day, so he's going frantic trying to find her. Molly gets the call in the midst of the argument that she's having with Andrew. So it kind of left them unresolved, even though I think they pretty much got an answer there.
Yeah.
But we didn't get a clear ending to that because she immediately went over to Derek and Tiffany's house to find out what was going on. Issa also got the call along with Kelly. So everyone's there, along with some of the mothers that Tiffany had befriended when she became pregnant. And everybody's trying to find her, and they have no idea. But they start to put pieces together and figure out where she might be in the city. And they're able to locate her at a hotel where she just needed a break. But yeah, it felt like that part of the episode took up more time than it needed to prove its point. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was like, oh, we're lingering in this for a while.
Yeah, I thought that it definitely, I don't know, it felt it felt like a big move, like a big thing was happening, but then to me the end result kind of fell not flat, it felt a little bit anticlimactic,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say. And maybe that's real life. I don't know. Like maybe that's what they were going for, that that's just the real life function of the whole thing is like, oh, you know, the husband comes and that's who kind of not saves the day, but that's where, you know, their relationship really starts to take over, besides just like this whole movie thing that we have going on with the looking for Latoya. But I don't know. I just felt like I think maybe we even talked it up like a bigger thing, like all over the season. So maybe that was our anticipation that just kind of felt like, oh, this big thing is about to happen, and it's about to be resolved. Or and I don't know if you watched the wind down after, which is where they kind of even mentioned it and said, you know, normally in movies it's this big, huge thing. And so they wanted to keep it like more realistic and more like, this is like, you know, this is what would really happen. And this would be the resolution that would really happen and, you know, whatever. And so I don't know, maybe that's just where we hadn't anticipated that big movie type version of it
Mm-hmm.
happening. And this is the real life version. So,
Yeah. You know,
yeah.
I didn't get to see the wind down when it was on the app. It wasn't up there yet, so I got to go back
Okay.
and watch it. But I don't know. There were some things that I appreciated about it. I appreciated that Derek was very much like the active person in this search, because a lot
Yeah.
of times when we see this, it's the friends of the mother versus the husband. The husband's just kind of aloof and hoping that things work. Where
Right. He would be at home waiting by the phone type of
right.
thing.
Yeah. Or like the friends would be like, no, we'll take over for this because you're part of the reason why she's here in the first place. Like that's usually kind of the attitude that's given
Yeah.
in situations like this. But no, Derek's been, you know, A1 dad and supportive husband this whole time. And trying to be cognizant of the signs, like he knew something was going on, but he didn't know it was as bad because clearly she wasn't sharing that information with
Yeah.
folks. And then I think I was hoping that we at least got a little bit more of a glimpse into like what is the driving force behind her depression. Like, is it that
Hmm.
she feels like she can't be enough, or she feels like things won't be the same, or we didn't get that.
And I don't know, like that could, like I said, that could be part of that big movie version. I don't know because, like I said, or maybe I didn't, but I think like with my first kid, I might, like looking back now, I might have had like a mild version. And I don't, I mean, like I did talk to my husband about it. I talked to my sister about it, and I was just kind of like, I'm just, like something's just not right. I honestly said I think my son hates me. Like I was like I think he just doesn't like me, and I was sad. I never got to that point of whatever that big movie version is of like I want to like harm myself or harm my baby. I never got like that. So maybe like she and were on the same things. I also didn't run away, but I don't. Yeah, you're right. Like we don't. I feel like in our minds we built it up to more like it would have had more of a conversation, and maybe she does have more of a conversation with
Mm-hmm.
him that we just don't see. But I felt like even as the friends, they didn't get that resolution either, because like Kelly's been riding hard, taking care of the baby. Like I would have thought that even in that moment it was reserved for her and him. Like maybe later it could have been like more of a what can we do to help? I don't know, like some kind of a resolution
Right.
there.
Yeah. It gave to me more questions than answers. And for us to have spent so much time in that story,
That's
yeah, in that
yeah.
space, it just felt like we were deserving of a more fulfilling into it. Because like I said, they made it a big thing. Like we stopped everything that's going on in the Issa insecure world for 10 minutes of showtime dedicated to this, and we walked away like
Right. That even broke up the Molly
yeah.
fight. That broke that was, she couldn't even go into whatever the next process would be with Andrew. She was like mad that she had to answer this phone call, and then that cut to, her ended up at Tiffany's house. So it did stop everything to explain. And then like when they were on the bus, I was like, wait, where are their cars? Like now, this is like a legit like detective episode, and so we were really immersed in it. And then when we find her, it's just kind of like a hug at the door, and they're standing in the hallway, and then it was like that then it's over. I think even like a monologue, like an inner monologue of Issa would be, like to say like, this thing happened. I wish we could be there for her more, or I don't know. Like I do, maybe that's something that we explore in the next season
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
because it doesn't just go away.
Right. And now, you you almost feel embarrassed for your friends to see you in a space like that. So it's that period afterwards where people are kind of tiptoeing around the situation or being extra cautious of
Hmm.
it or extra helpful. And then if you are transitioning out of the depression that you had, you don't want constant reminders of it with people around you tiptoeing around you. So yeah, it's a weird space. Yeah, I just wish because well, the thing I pulled from it was that she was ashamed to share that with people, right? Because from what we saw, she could have easily been told Derek, like, hey, I need a day. I need to go just get a room for a day, get some Mexican food, and be on my own. I need a day. But she didn't feel comfortable enough to say that. And it's not that Derek wouldn't have been able to receive it, because he would have had no problem, taking care of Simone or the baby. But
Yeah.
she just didn't feel like she could break away her perfect persona to admit that shortcoming, or if she felt like it was a shortcoming, and admit that I don't want to be a mom for a day. Like I need a break. Um, so that
And that's a real thing, by the way. Mom guilt is a real thing where you're like, God damn it, I just need to, I just want to take a bath alone. Like, but then you're kind of like, well, that's time I could be, folding laundry for the baby or spent playing or reading or whatever other, whatever you could think of to like spend time with your kids or whatever.
mhm,
So that is a thing. I know even probably like with postpartum, that's a thing where you're thinking like, why don't I, why am I not bonding with this baby? Why am I not like, wanting to spend time with her? Why am I doing everything I can to not be with this baby? So that might be something that's going through her mind. And I think you hit it on the head, which is something that they talked about in the after show, which was, that perfect persona of her what's her name? I can't think of her name now. The actress
Amanda.
who plays her, Amanda, yeah. She was even saying like throughout the season she would like make it a point to like not have her nails perfect, or just to kind of like get into character of like slowly not taking care of yourself
Hmm.
in a way. And that this was the first moment that Derek and her really see each other like raw. Um as opposed to just that perfect persona, which we've all seen through the seasons of the, like, we always kind of felt like there's things that we don't know about them, but
Hmm.
we don't dive into it. We just kind of are like, oh, that's just them. They're, they have the perfect nursery and the perfect house, and her hair's always done and all this stuff. And her coming out of the shower just kind of like literally naked,
Hmm.
with wet curly hair as opposed to the long weave or wig that she normally is wearing. So that was something that they touched on, that was like, this is them being raw and real with each other, and that opportunity to be honest about
Right.
things.
Right. And look at us. We spent just as much time on it as they did. But
I mean, like they could have spent that, like they've spent full episodes on characters, but I mean, we even said this, that they're not, that as much as I would love to have this Sex in the City foursome, they're not the main characters. It's really Molly, Issa, and Lawrence,
mhm.
really. And so, maybe that's why they didn't spend a whole episode, just because I think like the who done it, not a who done it, but like the suspense of looking for her, they probably could have spent a whole episode tracking her down, because I honestly couldn't have found anybody that fast.
Yeah, they did definitely come together like a Scooby Doo crew and put links together to find her. But yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely changed the tone of the episode because we started off, I'm gonna say on a high. Well, I guess look, the argument and the response from Andrew to Molly was a high for me because I was like, yeah, finally. So,
Because you don't like her.
right,
You don't think I just personally don't think she deserves
right.
him. I do. I don't know that she does.
But it definitely felt like a reckoning that was coming. So the first 10 minutes of the episode was like, yeah, we're in a good space. We're closing out things. We're moving on. And then this just took a tonal shift in the episode. And after they find Tiffany, Lawrence ends up coming over to Issa's house and he drops the bomb of bombs on her. And it was a bomb that we've talked about that we hoped wouldn't
Mhm.
show itself, but damn if it didn't. It
Dola.
right. Con is focusing on the con. Condola is pregnant, and she has recently dropped the bomb on Lawrence, and Lawrence has in turn come to Issa with it because he doesn't want it to change what they've just agreed upon. But how does it not change what they've just agreed upon? Like,
Mhm.
especially if you feel like this is your forever love, you don't want your forever love to come with
With baggage
right.
that you got in the middle of the the relationship. It's not even like baggage that you took on from the beginning. This is like the break baby,
Hmm.
like you said. And I was, I was so mad when I saw that whole thing. I had the roll, not the roll die. I might have done the old roll die, but definitely the look to the right, like annoyed emoji, like, God damn it. Condola.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not happy about this at all.
Yeah, no, I definitely gave a side eye. It was one of those where like normally I set my phone down while I'm watching episode. I picked it up. I was like, let me get out of here. I'm over this. But yeah, it's just it was definitely things were going too well for Issa and Lawrence. Something had to throw a wrench in there.
Yeah.
But the
I thought it was going to be the job. I didn't even think that it was going to be. I mean, I thought we were done with her, especially because he said last episode, like, oh no, that's done. That's
right.
over. And so I was like, okay, so that chapter is closed. We don't have a break, baby. But then I was still thinking, like, if he gets that job in San Francisco, even though I told you, people commute all the time, like from there, I still was like, maybe at the end of this episode they'll be like, you know what, the distance is just too far, especially after her interaction with Nathan. I just kind of felt like that was the backup that was gonna like he was gonna step in right as Lawrence was stepping out. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're just not going to end up together. And then when that happened, I was just like, now to me, it's tainted. It's a tainted love because even though they were on the break, it's tainted because that's like I said, that happened in the middle. It didn't happen in the beginning. They were, they were back on track with high hopes and everything was going great. And now she's gonna have to be dealing with baby mama drama. And then like even if there isn't any drama, there's always at least on TV. I don't know about real life. I don't haven't had this issue, but there's always that well, now that they have a baby together, are they gonna now like she even says it, are y'all gonna be together now? Or you're gonna be with her
Right.
now? Because you just assume that people having a baby together are gonna just try to figure out a way to make it work. And besides that Thanksgiving fight, they looked like they were doing well. So maybe they could rekindle that and maybe a baby will bring them together. I think that's the thought. And so that could always break up a relationship too. Like, y'all are close because y'all have this baby together. So
Yeah, and
I'm sad.
there's no competing with the baby, right? No,
No.
no one in their right mind should be competing with the baby. I'll say that because
Mm,
some people do try to compete with the
yeah.
baby. Uh, but yeah, I looked at it in a few ways. One, what we know about Lawrence so far is that he is the man who would try to make it work, right? Because he's very much invested in like the relationship that he and his parents have with each other and how they've made it work, and that's kind of been the thing that's been in his head, and feeling like he's supposed to be growing up and catching up with his friends as far as marriage and kids and things like that. And of course, he does not paint himself as someone who would be a deadbeat dad by any means. So
Hmm.
even though Condola has come to him with well, look, you can choose what level of engagement you want with this kid. Like she
I hate
she
her.
says that stuff to get a rise out of people. Like
Hmm.
you knew who you were saying that to, and you knew that his response would be, "What the hell are you talking about?" or something
Of
of
course. Right. Of
that.
course I'm gonna be there for my
Right.
kids or whatever.
But
Yeah. And that bothered me too. Like, I don't know about like from the writer's perspective, but not only is this a trope, right? Especially like I'm more annoyed that it's a trope in the like black television experience or black movie experience. And then on top of that, it's all of the language that you've seen a thousand, or at least like I told you, maybe this generation hasn't had their the game Melanie and Derwin, group. So maybe this is fresh for them, but for me, it's not. And everything she said was like that stereotypical. Well, I'm keeping the baby. You can be involved as much as you want, but I'm gonna be okay without you. Yes, it's yours. Like all those typical things that you hear when you're watching these types of scenes play out. You hear them, and so I'm kind of like, oh, this is not even like fresh dialogue. Like I was so mad just watching that scene.
yeah, yeah, and the part that really got me, and this is part two of what I was talking about, is the fact that she said, well, we learned that she was pregnant before with her ex-husband, and she felt like
Mm.
that wasn't the right time. But this dude who you were talking to for maybe 2 months at the most was the ideal father for your child. Like it didn't make sense. She's like, well, I'm ready now. I don't know. So I have a
Like it's hard to say. Like you don't want to be like, because I was surprised that he was like, "Why are you keeping it?" Like you don't want to tell. So you that's the exact wrong thing to do is to tell a girl to have an abortion. But it's also kind of like why like and she was I'm not trying to trap you, but she is honestly trapping the situation like, oh, I thought we were careful, all these things that you typically hear, like, oh, I thought we were careful while we use protection, are you sure it's mine, like all these things. Oh, like I was just cringing the whole time. And then to think that she didn't have the baby with this man she supposedly was so in love with that it like drove her crazy
Mhm.
and it broke them up, that she was still in love with this guy. But now she's known for 2-3 months about this baby. She's at least known for a full month,
Yeah, she's
right? Because
known. She's known.
right, because we tried to do the timeline, which was this has to be like March at this point because it's been a long time since the block party, at least February, March. And they haven't had sex since
Since
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
And really, they probably didn't even have sex on Thanksgiving because, he left
Right.
early. They broke up that day. So it had to be like a day or so before Thanksgiving that they had sex. That was so long ago. She's known for so long. She's come to the block party. They was talking all last episode. And in that episode, you said that they had been talking before that. So she's been talking to this dude for how long before she decides to tell him when she knows she has to know that he's happy now.
Right. Yeah, it goes back to that whole competition idea between those two. Like, how do you trump whatever he got going on? With Issa, boom, baby card, let me play. But yeah, if you put the timeline, if you do the math ain't mathing because like it's 2 months from Thanksgiving to the block party, right? I am not a woman. I do not know what happens to a woman's anatomy during those first 2 months. But I would assume, just based off of what my female friends have told me, what I've seen with my mom when she's a kid, that in those first 2 months you do get some signs. You get some clues along the way. And she definitely knew that night that Issa and Lawrence went out because that was why she was blowing up the phone. She wanted to say it to him in person. And that's why she was like, "Are you coming over? You coming over? Come over." But he didn't. But that's still, I mean, she knew then. So she's had this in her pocket.
Brewing. Right. She's been brewing.
Yeah, for a long time. That baby is almost here now. Yeah. She's been sitting on it for so long. And I just have so many issues with how she approached that. And then...
And the fact that they talked to end it, like they firmly ended it. Mm-hmm. And she didn't tell him then, but she decided to tell him now. Like, what changed between blowing him up on the phone and them ending it for real, and then now, right. And then all the time before that? Like, you're right. Maybe that first month you don't know. You're like, oh, I'm a little bit late. Like, I'm not sure. But 2-3 months in, there's a baby in there.
Right. Like you've had a doctor's appointment. You've had something. You've already got your order of what to expect when you're expecting on the way from Amazon Prime. Like you have these things in place.
And she's been pregnant before.
Right, so she knows.
So she knows, like, even... So maybe if it was, like, her first baby and she didn't, like, oh, what's that? Like, this feels weird. No, like, this is her second baby, so she for sure knows what these signs are pointing to, and took that EPT. She took the early pregnant test and found out that she was pregnant. And I think that's why they kind of had her wearing like a sweater in California, like that big old bulky sweater with the big hair to kind of like make her look more, I guess, like more rounded, mm-hmm. Like maybe she is more pregnant. But I'm just kind of like, you waited all this time for this dude to be happy. And I won't throw out your conspiracy theory here, but it just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, so let's do a quick run of Condola, right? So at Thanksgiving, she told everybody that she wasn't looking to be in a relationship, right? Remember that? Like that big conversation around, oh no, I'm not looking for nothing. So it leads me to believe that either she was looking for a donor, like she just wanted to have the baby and not the man. But I would hope that that's not the case, right? Because that just...
Well, if that was the case, she wouldn't have told him. She would have just been pregnant and moved on with her life.
Right. But, she's somewhat responsible. Not the most responsible, because it's also the woman who ghosted somebody on a major project. So there's that. Then... I'm going to take it back to my original I don't like Condola when she was supposed to meet up with Issa for the concert and she was nowhere to be found. Now, I still think that she was running to try to find a husband. We don't know where she went or what went down. And it was another theory that I will throw out there. I'm not attaching anything to it, but there are clues in place, whether they, come to fruition or not, that would make it seem as though she got pregnant by her ex And he definitely told like, no, I don't want this, but she wants the baby. So who's
Right.
next in line? It could be one of those things. Condola is certifiably crazy, and I just want to put a pin on that statement so that it
So when she's cooking rabbits next
right.
season,
We all know why, but I was like, well, damn, she got bumped up to series regular. Her and Nathan this episode. I feel like Nathan's definitely gonna be around at least in the next season. So,
yeah,
but it looks like
Nathan's stepping right in.
yeah, it looks like Condola is. So I could definitely see next season beginning with the baby shower and Lawrence there. But yeah, it's so Lawrence is definitely not taking that job in San Francisco because
You don't
I
think
don't think so,
so?
because he's gonna want to be around. Lawrence is gonna be, A1 dad too. He's gonna want to be around all these things
Yeah.
and try to make it work. He's gonna try his hardest to make it work just because he feels like he should, and it's gonna be a thing of obligation versus love.
But isn't that like his security, that job in San Francisco? Even like temporarily taking that job, because that's his next level of success. Like even if you don't keep a job that long, he has 9 months to be at that job to then say to like take that credit somewhere else.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like if you're at somewhere for like a year, then that looks good on your resume. You could be like, I managed this team, but I needed to move on for personal reasons, whatever. But you at least have that under your belt. I would feel like, career wise, he wouldn't want to stunt himself for this.
Right.
I almost feel like he would do the opposite and be like, yeah, he want to be A1 dad, but maybe he would, be like that. I'm gonna just tell you, most dudes, not most dudes. Okay, let me not say most dudes. Some dudes, including my husband, don't feel like dads until the baby is
Mhm.
here. So they're not reading books. They're not, unless you make them go into Lama. That's not a thing, Lama's class, but like, baby having classes and all that stuff. They don't really get on board until the baby's here. And so I don't know. I feel like he would go live his life, and then once it gets closer or once the baby's here, then he's like, oh damn, I need to like get back down there.
Mhm.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, it definitely complicates the Lawrence storyline. And if we all see in game for Issa and Lawrence, how does that look now? So they could play out the whole Melanie and Derwin story, where it might not be his, it may not be his. Who knows?
And then Issa and Molly do the
Swab.
the DNA test on the baby.
But then that would just be really played, and I want them to not do that. And it's especially funny when two of the characters or two of the actors who were on the game are on Insecure. Especially because Lawrence was on there in its like final seasons, and then Janae was on there.
Yeah.
She played Janae on the game, but she was on here as Dro's wife. But yeah, it's I would hope that they not dig that deep into the archives of Black television to rehash
But you know what?
that.
It could also just be like, okay, well, over the summer, over our summer, our year till we get our next season, he finds out she comes clean and was like, it's not your baby. And then it was like a false alarm. And then we just deal with the aftermath of, can they come back from this scare? They were so happy. They were on a high. This thing kind of like chopped them down. And then like, how did they handle this obstacle? Did they rally and stick together? Did this push them apart? And if it did push them apart, now that it's in the past, can they come back together? So, I mean, there's that angle that maybe they're just toying with. Maybe this is not really his baby, and this is just like a season, a cliffhanger.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it left us all kind of devastated. Issa especially, like it drew her to rolling up and smoking. Like she is worn out from the.
Yeah. She said it's too
Yeah,
much, and I get
yeah,
it.
it definitely is too much, all across the board. So, that's kind of where we end with Issa and Lawrence for this season. We don't know what is happening, but it doesn't sound good. And right now as we, ride into the final minutes of the season, if you do a quick accounting, Issa was on the up and up all season long, and it just feels like a crash happened right at the end.
Yeah.
Same thing for Molly. Molly to herself felt like she was on the ups,
In her eyes.
and now she's at a crash too. So they've both gone to like their safe space, which is Mercado. And I don't know if there was. Well, no, there was a call. Molly called Issa.
Molly called her Issa,
Yes,
yeah.
and they've met up, and we don't know what their conversation was because that's where we end the
Where,
season.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but even in that, I was like, oh, Molly. So now you call Issa when you ain't got nobody else.
Nobody else. But that's how, like, so that's the opposites again, right? So when Issa was calling Molly, everything was going well, but she still wanted to, share the news of her and Lawrence getting back together and how complicated it was. She wanted to share that good news with her.
Mm-hmm.
And here on the opposite end, because Molly wasn't trying to receive it anyway. Now on the opposite end, everything is going south with Molly, and that's when she calls Issa. So it's kind of like,
Right.
like it's still all about you, Molly.
Right. The thing that you accuse Issa of doing, you have now done. You are only coming because now you need somebody to express yourself to. Yes.
Call that therapist,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Rhonda.
Yeah. So as tightly written as this season was, this last episode was a bit of a disappointment. Like I said at the beginning when we started recording, it just felt like they had gotten extra time to do the assignment, and then they waited to the last minute to get everything done. Because it just felt disjointed. It didn't flow. The episode felt like we were getting like break stops.
Yeah.
And turning into a different direction each time because they had a lot to wrap up. Even we were saying last week, like they got a lot to do in 30 minutes. And
yeah. And we didn't get your extra minutes like you wanted.
Right. And then so on Sunday, I was watching it as it was airing live, and it didn't come on at 10. It came on at 10:20. So I was like, oh, we're going to get 40 minutes. Like they setting us, delayed time because usually when it's a season finale, they'll give them extra minutes. So I was like, oh, if they gave the show before this one extra time to wrap up, they're going to give Issa 40 minutes. No, it was definitely a 30 minutes to the T episode. But man, yeah, I was just like, I felt like we could have went about this better.
Yeah. I said that the last episode too, that it just felt like so much was going on. And, you had said that maybe it was because we got those slower paced, focused episodes, like focused on one character at a time type of episode. And then this one did have to deal with everybody. Like I had to finish, like we saw everybody in this episode, everybody on the show, in this episode. And even like the conversation with Condola was like very back and forth, right? So they spliced the conversation he was having with Issa with the conversation he was having with Condola. And so you got that back and forth, like him being like trying to tell Issa how sorry he was on one side, and then the chopped up version of that conversation where he was kind of like going back and forth with Condola, like, why did you do this to me type of thing, which is, I hope it's just a knee jerk reaction. So it just was like so many things happening in this episode that it was hard to digest. And you did have that slow down once she went out on the patio to have that smoke, which also, sidebar, I, along with like 1,000 other people, thought she lived on the first floor. It's not an important thing, but I was like, oh, she's hanging off the side of a cliff. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I definitely didn't expect that to be on the backside of the building because we saw the front of that building and it didn't look like it would have coastal cliffs on the other end of it.
Well, Callie, we all hanging off the side of a cliff at one point or another. but yeah, so like that right there from that moment was like the slowdown. Like, let me absorb all of this. Let me smoke it out, absorb it, and then we go to dinner. And so, and even that was like you get a couple of lines and then it's a pan out in silence, or with
Hmm.
music of them. I think the song said something like, "Are we friends?"
Yeah,
or "Are we still
it's a
friends?" or
Tyler the
something.
Creator song. Yeah, yeah. It's I feel like season three when it ended with the idea that it was a world of possibility. Like it was so many spaces for them to go in. So many adventures to be had with this new environment that they've given themselves. And then ending this season, it felt very pointed. Like we know exactly where we're going in the next
Hmm.
season. We know Lawrence is going to be dealing with this baby. We know Issa's got her mind around her new job. We know that Nathan is going to be around in this. We know that Andrew is not going to be around. Uh,
Love him.
and we know like Tiffany's mindset going. Like we have very clear paths for people this time. So
Maybe we'll get a little more Kelly because now that we've delved into everybody's life, can we find out a little bit more about
yeah, I
Kelly?
definitely
I
see
need her.
Kelly being picked up a little bit more, and Amal. I see us seeing
Oh,
more of him too. So as
it was nice to see him for a second.
yeah. Yeah.
And then I think I even like sent that to you on Twitter. That scene of them at the Mexican restaurant. Honestly, that was like my favorite scene of the season where, Issa's opening up to him and saying like, "Oh, okay, I feel like I should um not that I should have this Lawrence. I feel like I'm missing out on this Lawrence. Like I had the nigga with potential and she's getting, all my hard work or whatever." So I don't know why, but that is really did stick with me, and that's probably my favorite scene of this season. And then it's kind of a letdown to know that,
Condola really is getting
if
that.
I didn't want to say that, I don't think she's gonna get
Well,
it,
she
but
gets to give this man a, his first child. She gets to do that for. She gets to see him discover fatherhood. Like she took that
yeah,
from me. I think as
yeah.
Issa started to wrap her head around the fact that her and Lawrence could be again. All of those
Mhm.
feelings start to rush back in, and that that vision she saw early on in the series with them being older with a kid and everything. I'm sure that thought came right back rushing in. But I mean, that
Mhm.
what a great callback moment, right? That scene really painted what Issa is like stewing in now. Like, wow, not only did I speak this, but it's actually happening. Like this,
Mhm.
because in her mind, she knows Lawrence is going to try to make it work. He's going to be the best at being a dad, and he's going to do that and give the kid what he believes a good household should be. So that means mom and dad, in here. It's not stepdad. It's not any of that. So she
Mhm.
knows that that's going to come from Lawrence, and that's the part that hurts her the most is that she's not going to be the one to give it to him.
I'm
Yeah.
sad. That makes me that brought me down.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially knowing that, okay, I think Issa said that in her mind, she only had like 6 seasons for the show. It wasn't going to be something that went on and on and on. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, we're in now. Uh,
In the wrap
yeah,
up,
we're in the
we're going to
yeah
five.
the we're going into the last third of this story. So who knows how that plays out, but that's something to keep in mind too. That like we're on the we come over the hill, like we're cresting and we're going down towards the end of the story. So how does that look, and how does that story evolve in the next 2 seasons? It's unsure, but I don't know. Any thoughts about uh this season and what does that mean for season 5?
I mean, I think something that you said is sticking in my mind about, them feel, not them, but like Lawrence or Condola feeling like this is when they should be having a family and babies and stuff like that. And I think we might have talked about this before where, 30 really is that time where people reevaluate those things and
Mm-hmm.
they do say like, oh, I should have been married by now. I should have had this by now. And honestly, in like a reverse of fashion, his all of his boys that we've kind of seen have been married or are married and having kids and stuff like that. So, I mean, that might also play a role in how he handles the situation. Which it's so funny, like all the women are not, like, except for Tiffany, right? Tiffany is the only one who has a career and married and kid.
Mm-hmm.
The other girls are focused on work, all the other ladies. And so it's kind
And
of,
they're not even close to like where that would be in the evolution of
yeah,
things.
and I think that happens, right? I think I read somewhere that like there's a big number of Black women who won't get married or
Mm-hmm.
who won't get that dream or aren't in that position. And a lot of people, we have a friend who, I mean, she's been married, but who she really did prioritize work. And when you do that, a lot of times you just don't have the time for like you don't put as much time into like boyfriends and relationships and stuff
Right.
like that because you're working. So you're Molly, And the one time she did try to put some time and effort into it, I mean, really, it was like one-sided time and effort. So I that stuck in my mind where I'm like, oh, it's such a difference, like where the women are versus where the men
Right.
are, and where maybe Lawrence might be pushing himself towards just because he feels like that's where he should be at 30.
Right. But I mean, that's kind of how marriage works for men and women, right? Like marriage is a positive for men, and it can be a positive for women, but it does more for men than it does for women. Women can easily survive without being married.
I could.
It would have. I think it's been proven that like women, their quality of life goes down with marriage,
I,
and it goes
I
up for
think I
men.
read that same
Yeah.
article.
So,
And
there's no, even though like in the world that we live in, there's a rush for a woman to get married. Really, in the grand scheme of things, there shouldn't be a rush for them because they can do fine by themselves. And, these are career driven people. And then it's also that thing of 30 isn't as old as you think it is when you get there.
it's not.
So,
It
uh,
is not.
but men still hold on to that. And then as your peers around you start to have all that stuff, like it's different now because it's only Tiffany and their crew that has
Yeah.
these things. Now, the moment another one of them picks up a marriage or a baby, then the pressure is going to start to kick in for the remaining two. But now that she's outnumbered, she's the one that feels out of place. And she's already expressed that to them before. But yeah, it definitely would benefit Lawrence to be married versus Issa, or if Molly were trying to get married. I hope she doesn't do that to any man. But
Well, Molly's back at zero, so
right.
she's back at no prospects. Have we seen any? Oh, okay. So saw Dro, so that was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Who have we seen anybody else with Molly? I can't think.
My man, that was the Rent-A-Center manager. I mean, not the Rent-A-Center, the Hertz Rent-A-Car manager. But that wasn't even a relationship. Like they went on a date and a half, 2 dates. So that's really the extent of Molly's relationship experience. And we know that at 30, she hasn't had anything longer than a year. Because even Andrew didn't last a year.
This didn't even last a year. Oh, because wait, no, because has it been a year? Because Coachella is usually in the spring.
Yeah, Coachella would be April.
And so we almost made it a year.
Yeah.
I mean, and not really because they had broken up for a while, a little bit. They chopped it off for a minute, and then this was them at the beginning of the season giving it another go.
Right. And I'm thinking about it too as just in dates. So we ended season 3 with it being Issa's birthday, right? And we haven't come full circle to Issa's birthday again, and we also haven't had Molly's birthday, or at least there's been no reference to it, right? So I'm thinking from season 3, the end of season 3 to this season, it's only been maybe 8 months, 8 or 9 months. Because remember, Issa kind of rushed into this event, and it
Yeah.
came pretty quickly. And I'm trying to think if they made a reference to when in the year Issa's birthday was, but the beginning of this season started in
It was like
yeah
September, I
September,
thought.
because remember we got a Halloween episode in here
Yeah.
too, so it was definitely like a fall from fall to the end of winter kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's only 6 months of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely haven't seen that much growth out of Molly, and that relationship couldn't have been longer than 8 months.
No, no, you're probably
Yeah.
right. So I mean, and I think that might be typical of like a hard working woman. I mean, I think that's just a type of woman. I wouldn't want to pigeonhole women, but I think that's just a type of woman, and she just prioritized her work, and now she was trying to make room for a man, and she just wasn't ready. And there's a thing where if you've been a long 30's not old by any means, but the longer you wait, especially for women, like you were saying, I think that you just get so comfortable not having to answer to anybody. She has her own place with her own furniture. I remember when I moved in with my now husband, and I had lived with a guy before. I lived with an ex-boyfriend before. But when we moved in together, I wanted glasses in a certain place. And when he tried to move them to the other side, I was like, what the hell's wrong? Like, I was kind of like, what's wrong with you? So, like, the older you get, and the more comfortable you are with your own space, it's so much harder to let someone else into that space. And I've seen it with older women who are like kind of workaholics, where they're like, nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna do my hobbies on the side. I don't really need that kind of drama in my
Yeah.
life.
And I think that's across the board too. Everyone gets set in their ways. Like, you're
Hmm.
much more flexible about certain things when you're younger and you don't know the value of those certain things to you yet. You don't have a care about the glasses. But in your 30s, you're like, these are glasses that I bought from such and such place. They will get cracked if they hit. Like, you have a different appreciation for things. And then you just know what works for you, right? Because
Yeah.
it's worked for you for so long. So the older you get, the more likely you are to be resistant to change, right?